Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I don't want to be long this time, but let me start by thanking the last Cash App donors. The last ones, most recently, are K. Freeman, Sir Anthony, S. Jock, Joe Schmo. They are the most recent. Thank you again from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. To anyone that has extra, extra. Can you look out for Brother Hayes? His tag is D Hayes, Hayes 2622. As if you got it. Anyway, let me get to the point of this and why I open this up. I'm going to start by thanking Celebrity D Podcast, Daphne Ford Sutton, the Queen of Accountability. The ex-friend of Roda Usman for coming out and explaining who she is. Steve for coming out and telling us what he knew. And also the assistants and aides. Sorry for yawning. The assistants and aides to the Queen of Accountability, including Gail at night. It is important that hyenas be held to accountability. And Rhoda decided to be a hyena. She chose to be one. She was not born from a lineage of them. She was not born to a lineage associated with them, but she made a decision that she wanted to be a hyena, and she became one. No one told her to do this. Her family might ride for her because they're family, but her people don't. And that leads me to the next point. I want you all to notice something important. Rhoda at some point decided that she was going to be a single mom. She did not involve a man from her own lineage. Wouldn't work. She did not involve a man from another lineage. She involved specifically an African American man from Philadelphia. She made a decision. It did not involve a marriage contract as far as we know. And I'm not saying that because there's no courthouse record. I'm saying that because if the child had been born within a religious wedlock, by now she would have said something. She now has a son in her custody while she is driving drunk, crashing into walls, things like that, running scams, everything else, fighting women, and blaming men when she fights women. You see where this is going? We need passports, and this shows why we need them. But there will be no hope for the kids that some of us used to be if we are not telling young brothers about this now. We don't have access to reach your son to tell him this, and that's not our job, and it's not our fault. She bred another victim, another cog in the machine. But we have to learn from this and understand that protect your seed is not just a hashtag. It is a real good bit of advice, and we need that, because if we don't follow it, these ratchets are still going to get baby rabies. And while we're not out here dumping it as willy-nilly, all puns intended, as what popular culture wants to believe and wants us to believe about ourselves, there is still the fact that we're not protecting it enough from these hyenas. Not enough. We're getting better about it. The black manosphere is. But this is something we can preach even beyond the black manosphere. Brothers might be sitting up here thinking, man, I can't turn down no, that as long as brothers believe they can't turn none down, then the women are going to call all the shots when it comes to sex. Now, we know that women control access to sex and men control access to commitment. But in actuality, women have seized half of the control of access to commitment through sex, because they won't commit to a man without having sex. Now, they may want a man to commit to them without having sex, but they don't commit to a man without having sex. So this still goes back to them. And the only way to take this away from them is to refuse anything, to refuse a commitment, to refuse to fornicate, to refuse to marry them. Anything. The passports are the long-term solution. That does not mean, in any case, that the short-term solution is a smash and dash or pump and dump. Remember something. These ladies don't tolerate that. And I don't know why a lot of us tend to forget that, but these ladies don't tolerate you coming around the corner on a smash and dash or a pump and dump. They want their pound of flesh. And even in the West, if you pay to play, they want their pound of flesh. They insist. Cardi B was just one example. She wanted her pound of flesh. You could not pay to play, and that was it. And she probably had the BBL beforehand. So she had to mind me up. They're not going to get to just jiggle my fun parts and then just, get up, throw the condom away, flush down the toilet and walk off after they pay me my money and nothing else happens. No, I'm going to make them pay more. She admitted it and never had to wear a pair of handcuffs for it for an hour. And see, she's so ratchet that if somebody came forward and said, yeah, she did this to me, I'm one of them, I'm pressing charges, and I'll go ahead and take the ride upstate for solicitation, she'll be like, do you know what I did to you while you were unconscious? She'll sit up and say it. Even if it's a guy that she only drugged and robbed and then got out, she'd still say, I called a friend of mine. I ain't gonna never say who it was, but I called a friend of mine. He grew up and got that with you while you was asleep. And ruined the man. She would do it. That's who they are. You're not in a war between the sexes. You're in a sexual war. Rhoda is a part of the hyenocracy that, while sitting up here and restricting access to the drawers, still manages to rack up a high body count, become a single mom, run these scams, become nothing but bad news. And part of the power of this is in the fact that she's a mom. We've made that easy. Now, we might be busting her up and holding her accountable for the scams now with the help of some of the ladies that don't believe in this type of stuff. That is true. But by the same token, we must admit, gentlemen, as I've stated, the only thing for which we must take accountability is the fact that we've been too easy. I'm sitting up here telling you to do the same thing I'm telling you to do exactly that for which I would tell you to not let a woman tell you to do, because I'm telling you to do it for the right reasons. Be chaste, protect your seed. Sometimes women that are comfortable enough to tell you anything at all, to give you any kind of advice, will tell you not to do this, that, or the other, because they don't want you to rack up a body count. It's like they just don't want you to catch the fish because they're fish. It's not really about your benefit. It's whatever is not going to work to your benefit that they're going to tell you to do. But I'm telling you to protect your seed because, well, they won't, and because it's good to protect it, because they want to take your seed to breed cogs in the machine if you're trying to get out. Now, as long as you're pursuing them, they're going to tell you no. But when you decide you passports and you're getting out and you're going to work and duck your head and bounce out of there, and they notice this about you, because a lot of you can do this undercover and under the radar, but the minute you're on the radar as one of those guys that's going to do that, then they're going to turn around and try to get some of your seed as another cog in the machine of the hyenocracy, and you're stuck. That's what they want to do. Remember, you might think I'm exaggerating when I say that it's a war, but how do you know it's a war? Think about what you want to do. What support will you have for what it is you want to do? There's always opposition, but do you ever get support from them? You don't. You want to be a passport bro or SYSBM, they will not support you in that. You decide you want to stay here and be play and run through them, they won't support you in that either. Whatever one you decide they oppose, that's war. See, in war, you look at your enemy army, and however they maneuver themselves, you stop them unless there's a bad position into which they are currently maneuvering themselves. Then you will not interrupt them because they're making a mistake. But as long as they're doing anything, not just that's against you, as long as they're doing anything that is beneficial to themselves or just not harmful to themselves, you will oppose them and interrupt them and frustrate them because it's war. And that's exactly how they operate with you. Whatever direction they see you heading, they want to jump in the way of that. If anything, you want to know what men should be competing to do? Instead of competing to smash the most and the finest while you're in the West, shouldn't compete for that. We suffer because a lot of us are still, even though there is the black manosphere with its good message, a lot of us are still in a bad situation in which, unfortunately, a bad culture that unfortunately tells men that you are to compete for the draws. That's an error. That's a mistake. You can't do that. If you were competing for the punani, you're in the wrong competition and you will regret it. You can't compete for that. Now, if the women see that you're trying to get notches on your belt, they got choice words for you about what kind of build something you need to do, and they'll come with that. But if you don't, then they turn around and say that you need to be trying to get with somebody. The idea that there's something wrong with you if you're not getting buns amongst Western women is exactly what they need you to believe, consciously or subconsciously, so that they can effectively fight this war against you and whatever you want. Because as I have told you before, even when they're not aware of it, they hate you more than they love themselves. I'm not even telling you they love themselves. I'm just telling you they hate you more. Think about it. Rhoda fights women, gets her butt beat by women, blames men. Rhoda injects a saline solution into her face, swells up, blames men. Black men. And it's not going to stop with black American men. That's where it starts, not where it ends. She's just one example. She's a shining example of this. It's war, gentlemen. It's not just about her making the bag either. That's a big part of it, but it's not just about that. It's war. Will she scan a woman if she can? Sure. I imagine. Hell, she did. But is she going to sit up here and say anything bad about black women to make that money? No. And I don't want her to ban. I don't want her to bash black women as a race to make the money. Is she even going to say anything about ratchet hyenas to make that money? No. She would rather sit up and pretend like she likes punani. She'd rather pretend like that. For what? It's war. It's just one example. Jeannie Mai is another example. Jeannie Mai probably tried to be submissive. I think she tried. I guess she did. But Jeannie Mai had a double disadvantage. She grew up in the West already. Then her mother was a misandrist hyena from Vietnam. So Jeannie had a double disadvantage, and I think she couldn't break out of it, and that's exactly what messed things up for her and Jeezy. That's my guess. I'm speculating. It's not really my business. I'm not really worried so much about celebrities. I'm worried more so about your ability to understand the pattern. The celebrities don't mean much. They're not paying our bills. I don't love them or hate them. They're entertainers. Jeezy's an entertainer. Jeannie Mai is an entertainer. But the point I'm making here again is that there are patterns that repeat themselves. That's why they're called patterns. And I just want you to be able to understand them. It's war. And Jeannie Mai, especially looking as good as she does, cannot get the war software out of her head. It's not how that works. Remember, war is war. The most important thing as far as those fighting the war are concerned, oftentimes is not even the convenience of the self. Sometimes it is just the inconvenience to the enemy. You're not always aware of that. But even H. Rap Brown, Jamil Alameen, may Allah preserve him and free him, just because the devils don't like it, said in his book, the first book, Die, N-Word, Die, not the second one, Revolution by the Book. And that's a deep one there. If you want to know why he was locked up without actually shooting anybody, Revolution by the Book will tell you because, well, I mean, it's revolution. But Die, N-Word, Die is where he wrote that when you are in opposition to somebody that's evil and wicked, pay attention to that. He wrote in that book that it's just natural that whatever your enemy approves, you disapprove, and whatever your enemy disapproves, you approve. That's what he wrote. And there's a reason for that. Whatever your enemy approves, you disapprove, and whatever your enemy disapproves, you approve. And so that's what it's like dealing with the Western hyena. She doesn't have to think of herself as a feminist. It's not necessary. It actually helps if she doesn't. But what is necessary for her is to oppose what you approve and what is convenient for you, and to support what you disapprove and what is inconvenient for you. Now that's everything right there. That's more important. That is of the utmost importance. That you have no peace with them. And when you find peace without them, they're going to come along and ask you, well, why are you at such peace when you have no women in your life? You're not getting buns. See, if the minute that men stop telling you this, they come along and tell you the same thing, because what is important to them is that you're always being afflicted. That's important. That matters more than anything else. Your affliction. Your suffering. Facing hardship that you shouldn't have to face. Just making sure that you don't have it too good in life. Yeah, they don't even hide it. Road is just one example. And this is why it is that what you've got to start doing is stop giving them anything at all, even if it's just the ding-a-ling. Stop it. They're going to make you regret that every time, every turn, because that's who the hell they are. You give him some. If you're all geeked up about the chance to procreate because you thought you were never going to get to be a dad, then look at you and go, ew. If he shoots the club up, I'll just abort. But if you're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to have me some fun, get up, walk off. That's it. Because you know I'm a player doing my thing. She's going to be like, oh, that's what he think he going to do? No, I'm going to be the one to slow all that down. And then She'll, even if you're responsible, she'll still try to conceive it and keep it just because it'll slow you down from being player. Whatever you don't want is her goal. You've got to stop thinking that it just worked out that way. Average Man Unplugged, Rome, shout out to him for the work he's doing. He wanted to be a dad. Now, this was not in wedlock, but the point is he wanted to be a dad, so when he found out it was going to be, he didn't want her to get rid of the baby. So what did she do? If he had wanted to be a dad, the highest chance he would have had of being a dad would have been to go to that lady crying and been like, just go ahead and abort. I ain't ready for this. I ain't ready for this. Oh yeah, she'd have kept the baby then. Because Rome at that time did not understand what a lot of us don't understand consciously and in words, but what we can see and we know and we just don't know how to explain. And that is that this is war. And the most valuable things that we can give them are not even a wedding ring per se. It's not really the commitment, but it's what comes with the commitment. The most valuable things we can give them are seed and resources. Deny them all of these things. And commitment. And even casual hookups and flings, deny them all of these things. Because if you agree to a pump and dump, they're still going to say, well, as long as he agrees to that, I got access to his seed. I mean, what are you going to do? Smash and not come till you leave? That defeats the purpose of smashing. So, and that's the only safe way to do it. So you might as well just go ahead and just leave them all together. Because it's war. And they're going to do whatever the hell is going to be the most painful thing to you and the least convenient. And the thing is, they won't even realize a lot of times why they're doing it. But it's because it's war. And even if they don't realize consciously, on a subconscious level, they're going to realize this is war. And they are part of a team, part of an army. And they intuitively know, just like when you're growing up, you intuitively knew who you better not bring to the house because your parents weren't going to tolerate it. They intuitively know that they are fully expected to afflict you, be as difficult for you as possible, screw things up for you. They know this intuitively. With that being said, thank you so much for listening. As always, black heart, black mind, blackout. Assalamu alaikum in black, heterosexual, non-select, male power just because they don't like it in black. With a capital B, 4 A's in the middle, exclamation mark at the end. Black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. Thank you for flying again with me on Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Protect your seed. Gender justice forever.